6 days. That's how long undocumented migrants in South Africa have been given to pack up and leave, or face what organizers are calling the consequences. The movement behind this ultimatum calls itself March and March, and with the government spending 600 million rand just to prepare for what happens next, this is no small story. Today, we're breaking down everything you need to know about South Africa's June 30th immigration deadline. The group at the center of this storm is called March and March, an anti-illegal immigration movement that has rapidly gained national attention. Their leader is Jacinta Ngobese-Zuma, who held a media briefing earlier today, doubling down on the movement's demands. She says her movement has the support of ordinary South Africans who are frustrated with what they see as a government that has failed to enforce its own laws. In her words, and I'm paraphrasing here, South Africans want to see their country take shape, and they want undocumented migrants to leave voluntarily. March and March isn't just calling for a mass deportation. Their list of demands goes further. Undocumented migrants to self-deport by June 30th, stricter visa controls at borders, a full review of asylum policies, tougher penalties for employers who hire undocumented workers, accountability for corrupt police officials who help migrants get forged documents, restrictions on access to public services for undocumented migrants. Ngobese-Zuma has been particularly vocal about corruption, saying that foreign nationals are buying South African documents and effectively getting onto government systems illegally, and that nobody in power is doing anything about it. This isn't just a Johannesburg story. Tensions have flared across 3 major provinces: the Western Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and Gauteng. In some areas, protests have already turned into direct confrontations with foreign nationals. And significantly, some migrants have already begun leaving the country ahead of the deadline in response to the unrest.
One explanation may well be that policing strategy and tactics for policing certain kinds of crime is working. Now, some people out there might not want to hear that message, but they can provide evidence-based alternative explanations. But when a station commissioner tells me, here's my strategy for reducing crime in Nyanga, these are the results. He tells me that he's getting good results in fighting taxi violence, which is still a problem in Nyanga. But that's because he's getting good intelligence. I'd like to hear if there's an alternative explanation. If he tells me he's got a strategy to deal with contact crime, by the way he deploys his limited policing resources, then it suggests that what he's doing is working. And I met in that meeting there were 5 or 6 community-based organizations in addition to the CPF leadership, but doing important work communicating with young men about how to understand their identity as men, work around GBV and H, sexual violence, which is a problem in Nyanga as it is in many townships and communities across our country. People working on youth development. And they will tell you that they think that it's in a place like Nyanga, they can improve the levels of safety when the police and the community work together. And in Nyanga, where we found some gaps this time, but indications that the community has a sense of agency, a sense of purpose, and that they are involved in defending the livelihoods and security of their community. That's important. So we had an interesting meeting in Nyanga, and then one of the community representatives said to me spontaneously, "Minister, you don't have to worry about June the 30th, because here in Nyanga, we are not going to tolerate lawlessness. We're not going to tolerate any efforts to destroy our infrastructure." That speaks to a deep sense of community responsibility and solidarity. And I think that that is a message that must go out across the country from communities, from community policing forums, from our religious leaders, from our leaders in the trade union movement, from civil society, that the community desires peace and stability in the country. Which is not to say that grievances associated with illegal immigration are not well-founded. Our country is having a conversation about that matter, as is our right as a sovereign state and as a democracy. And our people have the constitutional right to peaceful and unarmed protest. So I want to be very clear about that, because I've heard some responses to my statement yesterday that the rule of law is to be upheld, which suggests that a statement is being made which does not accept the legitimacy of the protest and the underlying grievance. That's not correct. But we have to be clear and emphatic that the right to protest shouldn't be used as an excuse for criminality, as an excuse for abusive behavior. Only the police and other officials have the responsibility to enforce the law. In a constitutional democracy, what other message can I give? We cannot afford a repeat of what happened on July 21. And in this case, we also have situations where people are making inflammatory statements on social media, statements that they are going to expel people from our country themselves on the 30th, and we see that kind of behavior already. It's a minority phenomenon. Here in the Western Cape, we've had about 30 marches, most of them peaceful. 6 were accompanied by violence. So the Minister of Police can't take the posture which says, well, whatever happens on the 30th is acceptable. My responsibility is to make sure that our people and the resources of the police is mobilized to keep the country safe. And that's what we're doing. So I have received, the ministry, it includes the deputy ministers, a full briefing from the police on their operational plans. We have interrogated those plans to make sure that where there are gaps, they are filled. I am now satisfied that the police are ready for any eventuality, which is not to say that the police have been told to prevent communities or those who want to protest from protesting. In fact, it's the duty of the police to ensure that their rights, constitutional rights, are upheld and protected. But there is no constitutional right to violence, no constitutional right to take the law into your own hands, no constitutional right to carry dangerous weapons when you are undertaking a protest. After Nyanga, I went to the operational center. We will be visiting all the operational centers across the country. Myself and the deputy ministers, as well as other ministers. I will be in Gauteng later this week and then KwaZulu-Natal with the same, going to all the provinces to ensure that the country as a whole is safe. I'm going to be meeting with all the premiers, all the MECs, all the mayors, to ensure that we are in a position to deal with every eventuality. The operational center, I got a briefing on the crime situation across the Western Cape. Let me say that the information that was presented to me, which will not be made public at this point because these are not official stats, but MEC Marais was with me. Operation Prosper is having an impact on the levels of crime in the Western Cape, in the 17 high crime stations. It might be that in an election season it's difficult to admit that. But Operation Prosper has had an impact. By itself, it's not going to solve the problem of gang violence. And that is why we are working on implementing an organized crime strategy, on which I got a presentation yesterday, both from General Mkwanazi and the police leadership. General Timpani was there, General Zulu was there. Because we are moving into the second phase now. We've moved in from a stabilization phase. The next phase, what I've said to the police is we need to be able to dismantle the cartels, not move beyond stabilization. So that's what I want to see. And that requires other capabilities from the ability just to deploy police across the gang areas. So we're going to see in the next few months whether we can start to see some results along those lines. And I think that it is important also to start to change the way we discuss the gang issue in the Western Cape. Because we all know here that the gang problem in the Western Cape is more than 100 years old. And we know that the deep roots of it are in the socioeconomic conditions. So we'll never change, we'll never deal with the problem of gang violence unless we deal with the issues of development, opportunity, service delivery in our communities. And that's a challenge across the country, not just in the Western Cape. I got a presentation on what the police are doing to enforce our immigration laws. So that too must be clarified. When I say we are enforcing the law, that includes the immigration laws. In this province, the police are arresting people who are illegally in the country. And that's what they're supposed to do. There should be no equivocation about that. But when they do it, they're enforcing the law. When others do it who are not authorized by law, they are breaking the law. So the immigration laws are being enforced in this province, but let's not underestimate the scale of the challenge we face. With the interministerial committee led by Minister Kubal, I accompanied the delegation to visit Lindela last week. Every day they deal with between 500 and 800 people in that facility. Every day. So the country has a challenge going forward to secure the borders. And that's going to cost money. Maybe new technology. But the government is addressing that matter. It's going to take time, but we agree that that is a matter that needs urgent attention. The bill, in the period leading up to the 30th and beyond, my job is to ensure that the police are ready to deal with any eventuality. As the Minister of Police. I'm not the Minister of Human Rights. I'm not the Minister of Social Development. I have to make sure that the police are ready to maintain safety and security. And I'm satisfied that we are ready in this province. Every day, every area where we anticipate protest action or where that protest action occurs spontaneously is being monitored. We are ready to deploy proactively and reactively. And the people who are planning disruption should understand that. We're not waiting for the disruption to happen. I'm hoping that, as Dr. Zulu was saying to me, June the 30th will be a normal day. The people who want to open their businesses must be able to businesses. People who want to go to work must be able to go to work unhindered. And people who are here illegally in the country must know that the police are there and the officials of Home Affairs there to enforce the law, but that they will not be bullied and intimidated in our country, because we respect the humanity and the dignity of all people. That's who we are as South Africans. This evening I'm attending a meeting convened by the President, which is part of the same process. I already attended a meeting that he convened with all the religious leaders, who themselves should be making public statements. He has met with the traditional leaders. And tomorrow there is another meeting, and I'm not sure exactly what, but it's also a meeting convened by the President. And I form part of a interministerial committee led by Minister Kubal that is dealing comprehensively with the immigration issue. It includes also the Minister of Home Affairs, whose responsibility it is to help us deal with the issue of illegal immigration, secure the borders. So that's why I'm here in the Western Cape. Today I'll be here tomorrow, and I think I go back on Thursday.
Okay, thank you, Minister.
Thank you.
Colleagues, we are now going to open it up for questions, keeping in mind that we cannot divulge any operational plan information.
The government is not standing by quietly. Acting Police Minister Professor Cachalia made a dramatic announcement on Monday, revealing that over 600 million rand, money typically used to fund local police stations and community policing, has been redirected to security operations specifically for this event. His message to protesters was clear. Peaceful demonstrations are a constitutional right, but violence, intimidation, incitement, and property destruction? Not on his watch. He also confirmed that the South African National Defence Force, the SANDF, is on standby and can be deployed if the situation escalates. And President Cyril Ramaphosa has been unequivocal. He has repeatedly rejected the June 30th shutdown, calling on South Africans not to take matters into their own hands, and warning that law enforcement will act against anyone who incites disorder. Now, here's where it gets complicated. Ngobese-Zuma insists this is not xenophobia. She argues it's about the rule of law, corruption, and a government that has failed its own citizens. But critics and officials see it differently. There are real concerns about how this movement could be used to justify harassment, violence, or ethnic targeting of foreign nationals, many of whom are legally in the country, or are asylum seekers with legitimate claims. The line between a legitimate immigration grievance and dangerous mob justice is one South Africa is going to have to walk very carefully in the days ahead. June 30th is now 6 days away. Whether the deadline leads to peaceful marches, widespread unrest, or something in between, South Africa is watching. The world is watching. What do you think? Is this a legitimate protest movement, or is it something more dangerous? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for daily South African news coverage, and share this with someone who needs to understand what's happening right now. I'll see you in the next one.